All right, one day, suddenly my left thumb, that is on my fretting hand, started doing this crazy thing, this clicking between two positions. Relatively painless in the beginning. Of course, the right thumb is normal. So, anybody out there have any idea what this is? So, here we are now at day 4, and the problem has worsened a little bit. I mean, the clicking seems to be more pronounced, a little more painful, a little more bothersome. It's painful to rest my hands on my hips, my left hand, just that pressure on the thumb is kind of painful. I'm just wondering if there's any other guitarists out there who have experienced this. Is it a repetitive motion injury? Is it just an accentuation of my arthritis? Anyway, I'd love to hear from some of you guys if you've experienced this. I will have to go to the doctor, I believe. Anyway, help! There were so many comments and questions from subscribers and viewers. Here are just a few. Tiger Roo writes here, yep, I have the same condition with a tiny bit of swelling on the joint. I've had it for almost 2 months. Not real painful, but just wants to click back and forth. He says it doesn't get worse, but won't go away either. Just old age arthritis. Now, Chief Inspector says here, I have the same issue, but I believe it is some sort of tendonitis. Actually, he's absolutely correct. Anyway, no cure, my friend, and it will probably get worse over time. The doctor will perform Finkelstein's test where you grasp the thumb and you pull down on that tendon over the styloid process of the radius, which will elicit some pain. Igana Kiyushi writes here, and I really think this guy's got it nailed here. He says, yeah, it's the fretting hand and is probably due to the squeezing of the guitar neck, especially for barring chords, which puts a lot of force onto the end of the thumb, which translates to that joint. Now, Antonio Almeida suggests a warm gel massage, and he also suggested this passive mobility with right palm, move the left thumb smoothly. Now, I, interestingly enough, had begun doing this almost instinctively and intuitively before he even suggested it. I found it to provide a bunch of relief. I think we should talk about muscle, tendon, and bone connections. And, here's the forearm in question with the tendons in question. The muscles in the forearm exert pulling on the tendons, which pass through the wrist area through the synovial sheaths for lubrication as they continue on down toward their destinations at the tips or ends of the bone. And the actions of the muscles pulls on these tendons. Here's extensor tendons, here's flexion tendons. So extension. Here are the culprits, the two thumb, the thumb tendons, actually 3. Not so much the top one coming from the third compartment. That's the E. pollicis longus. It's these tendons coming from the first compartment here on the bottom. Now here we see the skin stripped off, and starting from the upper left-hand corner, we see the muscles in red connected to the tendons in white, which pass through the synovial sheaths in blue to get lubricated with an oily fluid before continuing on through to their destination at the end of bones. All right, let's focus on the wrist area. Here we see the synovial sheaths in blue, and that's all wrapped with this sort of translucent tissue, the retinaculum, which kind of keeps things kind of in place. And anyway, let's focus on these 2 thumb tendons from compartment 1 that has the abductor pollicis longus and the extensor pollicis brevis. These are usually the culprits that get hung up. Now here we're looking at the wrist extended outward, and we're looking at this sort of transverse slice through the wrist there, showing the 2 bones, the radius and the ulna, and those two compartments, the compartment 1, which is the compartment that contains the two tendons that cause the most problems. Then there's compartment 3, from where the extensor pollicis longus arises. So for this particular discussion, we're interested in the thumb tendons, the extensor pollicis longus that you see here prominently arising from the third compartment, and then on the bottom, the extensor pollicis brevis arising from the first compartment. Interestingly enough, and as a side note, this concavity or indentation bordered between these two tendons is referred to as the anatomical snuff box. And in the old days, men used to put their powdered tobacco or snuff in there and snort it. It turns out that my condition is known as Quervain's Tenosynovitis, and it can become pretty painful. Fortunately, I caught this pretty soon. But it can get to the point where it's hard to open up jars, for example. It's usually a repetitive motion injury. Mine was from playing the guitar. I finally had to stop to start the healing process. Symptoms can include swelling and irritation and pain around the wrist at the styloid process. And you may have difficulty moving the thumb and the wrist, particularly when grasping or pinching things, such as trying to open a jar. My problem was this clicking, which made it terribly difficult to play the guitar. So the best thing I could do would be to stop doing this for a while, and that's what I did. Let's talk briefly about the anatomy of the tendons that supply the thumb. There are 3. The first is the abductor pollicis longus from the first compartment, which actually runs underneath the thumb and inserts to its endpoint at a bone underneath the thumb. The next one is the extensor pollicis brevis, which also is from the first compartment and extends the thumb. And the third tendon coming from the third compartment is the extensor pollicis longus, and it also extends the thumb. If you focus on the left-hand corner of the screen and follow the tendons back to where they insert into the synovial sheath, you'll observe that the extensor pollicis longus from the third compartment actually crosses over tendons that are in the number 2 compartment that actually insert into the hand and the bones of the fingers. Risk factors for Quervain's Tenosynovitis include age. You seem to be most prone to it between the ages of 30 and 50. I associate this mostly with the fact that that's when you're most active in your occupation or in your hobbies that will cause this tension, that will cause this condition. Also, this condition is common in women and may be associated with pregnancy, but I think it's only associated this way. It's really associated with picking up your child repeatedly may aggravate the tendons in the thumb. And then, of course, jobs and hobbies like playing the guitar that involve the repetitive motion that causes the condition. Okay, so how did I take care of this? Well, first, I recommend that you see your doctor and then get referred to a hand doctor. In my case, this is what I did. I did some homework. I stopped playing the guitar. I took non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, ice, massaging, stretching, and then back to playing. Let's talk briefly about each. So in conclusion, what I did in order to take care of this thumb clicking, this tendonitis that my thumb was getting hung up with, called Quervain's syndrome or Quervain's Tenosynovitis. First thing I did was some homework. YouTube was helpful. I have some anatomy and physiology books at home that I referenced. First thing I did, I realized I had to stop. You need to stop doing what's causing the the aggravation and the irritation and the inflammation. So I stopped playing the guitar. I determined almost for sure that it was from my fretting hand pressing against the neck of the guitar while forming the chords. So stop playing. Ice, anti-inflammatories, stretching, massaging for relief, which was really helpful for me in stretching exercises, stretching those tendons, those extensor tendons, the abductor or flexor tendons. That kind of stuff was helpful. And just laying off the guitar playing. And eventually the clicking stopped, so I have my thumb back. Remember what it was like before? And so everything's back to normal. So I hope this helps. Until next time, take care, everybody. Wash your hands before playing the guitar to preserve the strings. And do some stretching before you start playing, and take care of your hands in order to avoid these repetitive motion injuries that can do some damage. Hang in there, guys. See you next time. In closing, I have to say I was able to see my primary care physician yesterday. I had an appointment for something else, but she agreed that this was most probably due Quervain's Tenosynovitis. Interestingly enough, if I wouldn't have been able to take care of this on my own before I retired from St. Luke's Hospital here in the St. Louis area, there was a hand doctor there. I had been to him for other things, basal thumb arthritis, which he injected and fixed. I'm sure he would have been able to fix this too. If you're in the area and you have this kind of condition or any kind of hand condition, I really recommend Dr. Timothy Lang at St. Luke's Hospital in St. Louis. So anyway, until next time, I hope this helps any of you identify this condition for you and let you know that it can be fixed. So until next time, see you later.